can you put your hands together and welcome Michael Somerville?
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I didn't even know this room existed till now.
Well, you're welcome. It's my favorite room on the ship.
Me too. I would have been up here all week. This is fantastic.
All right. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot. I don't know if you're aware of this, but we have these cards on board that we call Share Your Thoughts.
Didn't know about that either.
Our guests have an opportunity to share their thoughts about anything they want here on board, and then they get distributed to the people that they are about.
Are you firing me publicly right now?
I am about to read to you a Share Your Thoughts card I got in my inbox last night.
Oh, no.
Regarding Michael Somerville.
Oh, boy.
It says, brace yourself.
It's hard on this ship. We're all trying.
I'm going to need more coffee to keep up with you. Here we go. We absolutely loved the comedian Michael Somerville. We have traveled with Holland many times, and he has been our favorite entertainer. We were upset to find out that he was only scheduled for one appearance. We want more! Exclamation, 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 exclamation. We have never laughed so hard, loud, and long. Plus, everyone we talked to said the same thing. So, we're going to start off with that.
You don't recognize my handwriting, huh?
Actually, I did, and I'm confronting you with it.
I wrote it lefty. I thought I would throw you off.
I will not be fooled. No. So, and I just wanted to start off with that because that is absolutely the general sentiment I have gotten from everybody I've talked to about your show. So I think it was something special, and it touched a nerve with people and really resonated with people. And it shows because we have this many people showing up here for a coffee chat today. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. And whoever wrote that, thank you so much. I would like to point out, if you got it last night, that means that person's been at sea for 6 days. A little delirious, perhaps. We're all losing it a tad. It reads more like a ransom note than it does a compliment.
Well, that was my spin on it.
No, thank you all, and thank you for the kind words. I've met a lot of nice people all week long, and you guys have been great, and I'm flattered that you're enjoying the show. And we're going to do two tomorrow, or? Well,
yeah, you're going to do a variety show with Naomi, who was on last night. Did anybody see Naomi last night?
How wonderful.
Oh, my goodness, right? Just absolutely magical. She's something special. So we have 2 clear hits on tomorrow night. You and Naomi will be sharing the stage at 8 and 10. But before, let's start at the very beginning.
Oh, boy.
Where does Michael Somerville come from?
I'm from New Jersey originally, Northeast kid. My parents are both born and raised in the Bronx. I was born in Jersey. Typical suburb, grew up youngest of 3 boys, went to normal school, didn't think you could do anything in life but be a firefighter, a businessman, or a doctor. I thought those were the only 3 jobs in the world. But I knew about comedy because my parents would actually later tell this story. I was a night owl. Even as a little kid, I used to stay up late, and they would put me to bed, and they'd go downstairs and watch Johnny Carson. They'd watch all of Tonight Show. And they said, without fail, every single night they'd put me to bed, and then right around the time the show was going to start, they would just hear the little patting of feet coming down the stairs, and I apparently would watch Johnny's opening monologue from around the corner. And then as soon as the monologue was over, I'd go right back to bed. Once in a while, they said they'd find me sleeping on the floor out there. But I never knew that about myself, but apparently I liked comedy from an early age. Even then, never considered doing it professionally or for a living. Went on to college, went to the University of Notre Dame, where I got a good education. But that was my first show ever. They had a professional comic coming to campus, and they wanted a student to open. And all my friends, you're funny, you should try it. I did, I liked it, talked about just cafeteria food, whatnot. Still never considered being it, but I became the go-to guy at Notre Dame. If there was a pep rally, if there was anything, anyone needed to be on the mic, hey, Somerville, you should get up. Moved to New York City, got a real job in advertising, and quickly became disconcerted with getting up in the morning. I didn't like shaving every day. And then the big moment for me was we were doing this ad campaign for toothbrushes, Reach toothbrushes, and Andy Richter, who is Conan O'Brien's sidekick, some of you may know him from that, he was the voice of our toothbrush. And I worked I was making $18,000 a year at this job before taxes. And Andy Richter came in. I worked all month on this campaign. He came in and read one sentence as the voice of our toothbrush and made more money than I made the entire month for doing that. And I was like, I could be a toothbrush. I mean, I'm on the wrong side of this business. And he didn't even shower. I was like, that is my job right there. So I started checking out the open mics in New York City, and one thing led to another. It just kept going well enough that I thought maybe I'd quit my job, much to my parents' dismay, who I believe were probably still paying off my education at the time, and try comedy.
Well, I got a little, it sounded at the beginning of your description of how you were describing how you grew up, like we were analyzing how you ended up in this position.
That's the weird thing, and a lot of people say, like, if any comedians had a broken home, come from pain and anguish, come from I don't think anything outside
it sounded like you had no excuse for how you ended up being a comedian.
No, there's no, like, horrible, a couple of wedgies from the older brothers, but other than that, I think nothing, like, horribly tragic. It was just, I was funny, and it made girls laugh, and I didn't have to get out of bed before noon. And I was like, this sounds perfect for me. Yeah.
So what would you, looking back, what would you say was your big break? What was your first gig that you got that you were like just kind of freaked out that you were actually doing this?
Wow. Well, there's a couple, they always say there's no such thing as the big break. There's a series of little breaks, and that's true. You do remember a few moments. The first time I ever got paid to do comedy, I got $12.50 to close a show in New York City. I was the headliner, and I had to do 8 minutes, and I was terrified. I think I made it till about 6 and said goodnight. But I still have that $12.
They gave you the full 12
they gave me
for
12.
6 minutes?
They did. I think they felt sorry for me. And I still have it framed. I have it framed in my childhood bedroom in New Jersey. But I'd say the biggest moment for me, I had the good fortune of being on Late Show with David Letterman 4 times. And all 4 of them, people say, oh, you've done it before. It never gets old. It's like the Super Bowl. You don't get bored of going to the Super Bowl. But my first time standing on stage, Ed Sullivan Theater, David Letterman sitting behind me, and I told a joke that I had written in my childhood bedroom. When I first quit my job to try to be a comedian, I moved back home, gave up my apartment in New York, moved home with my parents. Everyone's saying, what, you're out of your mind? What are you doing? And I said, I don't know, but I'm trying this. I wrote a joke. I'll never forget where I was. I wrote that joke lying in my childhood bed, and all of a sudden I was standing on stage in the Ed Sullivan Theater, and I told the joke, and I heard Letterman laugh behind me. And I'd grown up with older brothers, so Letterman had been on television for as long as I can remember. We all know that laugh, that high-pitched Letterman laugh. And I remember at that point just sort of like leaving my body and being like, I don't even know, like I wasn't even present, I was above, I was watching, I don't know where I was like, am I dying? I don't know what's happening, but if I am, this is perfect. And that was the one moment I go, well, this I'll never forget.
And do you remember the joke?
I do. I haven't told it this week, I don't think. The joke was about how my best friend just got married. He says marriage is not going to change him. I was just at his house. His sheets match his curtains. My sheets are my curtains.
And you wrote that in your childhood
room?
room?
That in my childhood bedroom, yeah. And I just hear that Letterman, you know that.
That is awesome.
And now I can't use it tomorrow night. I'll heard it.
Oh, come on, you'll still laugh tomorrow night, right? He can use it.
There's always one guy just goes, heard it.
All right, so that's one moment. Well, you said there was a couple of moments that you remember that stand out from the beginning years.
Yeah, exactly. There's always along the step of the way. The first time that I ever heard myself on the radio, Sirius XM. It's not like the old days where you just had AM, FM. Right. Now we have this Sirius XM satellite radio, which is really taken over in many ways. And I was driving through Ohio somewhere in the middle of nowhere in some rental car. I think I was spending more money to get to this gig than I was actually going to make. I was questioning everything. And I have this album, my first album I had produced myself because nobody else wanted to pay for it. And I put it out and I just sent it everywhere just hoping to get the word out. You don't have any representation, you don't have any advertising or anything. and you send it to SiriusXM along with probably 100 albums they receive every single day, and you have no idea if anyone read it, listened to it. And sure enough, I'm driving to this gig in the middle of Ohio, and I'm always listening to those comedy channels on SiriusXM satellite, and all of a sudden I hear a voice, and I go, this guy sounds familiar. And I look down at the screen, and it says Michael Somerville, and I was like, oh my goodness, yeah, it was really, really cool. And for the first time in my life, I didn't care how I did that night on stage. I was like, these people don't deserve me.
You just went up and played your album.
Yeah, exactly.
Picture of the car radio on the...
Exactly, which actually became my little Facebook profile picture. Yeah, take a picture and put it on Facebook. Look, people.
Huge in a rental car in Ohio.
That's it, man. That is it. The other neat story I had, this is funny, when you first start, I did some commercials. I used to go out on commercial auditions in New York, and there's national commercials, which we all know, you see them all over the country, but what I didn't know is there's such a thing as regional commercials. In the north part of Pennsylvania, there may be a local Geisinger healthcare, a local healthcare market. There's little local market things. Well, for some reason, I had a series of booking these commercials, a regional McDonald's commercial, a regional Geisinger healthcare commercial, a local Toyota commercial, a bunch of commercials that weren't going to play all over the country, but in certain markets. Well, I'm driving across Pennsylvania, middle of nowhere again, and I'm going to some random satellite campus, college campus for a show, and I stop off in this convenience store to just grab something to eat, and I walk in, and the two kids behind the counter lose their minds, and they just go, "It's him! It's him!" Like either we're looking at Tom Cruise or something. Well, it turns out that little, maybe 10 square mile happened to be the intersection of every local commercial that I had done in the last... So just every day I'm on these people's TV, just about 20 square miles, but every day they're just looking at my fat face on their screens. And all of a sudden I walk into their convenience store, and they thought I might as well have been the Pope. I mean, I was just, And, they made me sign cereal boxes. I never understood that. Cereal boxes that were on the shelves still. I was like, I guess I'll sign them. Yeah, that was a really fun
So you're
moment.
huge in a 20-mile square radius.
I'm like the Hasselhoff of middle Pennsylvania, right? I'm just a tiny little market, but I'm huge.
Now you know where, if you ever need a pick-me-up, you know where you go on vacation.
Although, would I be like that pathetic guy going back and he's here again, jeez. Remember he was someone, now he's just desperate.
Oh, no. If you just pretend like you're driving through, it'll work. Yeah, here he comes again. He must be having a rough year.
Exactly. That was about 40 pounds ago, too. Is that his dad now? Who is this? I don't know. No. But yeah.
So, you travel, obviously you travel a lot, you do a lot of shows. Things don't always go well when you're on the road and on stage. Do you have any memories or anything that sticks out of tragic events that have happened to you on stage? Like any embarrassing moments or things that you're willing to share with us?
Yeah. What time is it? It's a daytime show.
We're in the middle of Atlantic. We've got plenty of time.
There's no rules. Well, this is a true story. This is a joke I would probably do tomorrow night, but I'm going to tell it to you guys anyway, as long as you promise to still laugh tomorrow night, because it's a true story. One of the first big road gigs I ever got was, coincidentally enough, in Pennsylvania. It was a roadside bar. And anyone who knows Pennsylvania knows that, there's Pittsburgh, Philly, but then there's also just Route 80 of nothing for 6 or 7 miles. And it's just the boonies. You're out there.
Yep.
And so when I got a job, I was getting paid $50 in cash. It was about a 6-hour drive. Borrowed a car from my parents to get to the gig, but you take the work because you want practice and you want reps. And I get to the, I drive all the way out there, and I don't know where I am, and I pull into the parking lot, and it's nothing but pickup trucks. And right away, I'm just a kid from my 20s doing jokes about dating, and I'm just looking at all these pickup trucks and this roadside taverny, gritty looking place. I don't think this is my crowd. And I parked next to a pickup truck that had a bumper sticker which read, "Keep honking, I'm reloading." And I was like, this is definitely not my crowd. And I go inside, and there's no stage. My job is to stand on the bar with no microphone and there's people just drinking around my feet, and I'm just supposed to stand on the bar and do my show. Like, yeah, get up and dance, monkey, like that kind of, you know. And I'm up there shouting jokes like a maniac, and no one's listening. And some redneck in the corner just looks up and goes, "You are the ugliest stripper I ever seen." Oh! Absolutely true. Yeah.
You know, honestly, though, that's probably better than you being the best-looking stripper he's ever seen.
Couple more shots for that guy.
Couple more shots.
Would have been a different night.
Wow, that is...
Yeah.
People don't realize what it takes to end up on the stage here in the Beat. So how did you...
It is, yeah.
How did you... so you did this for a while, and then did you transition directly into ships, or was there something in between there? What was your journey?
No, I still do land. I was just in Chicago doing Zany's Comedy Club, and I was just in Vegas at the Bragg Area Comedy Club there in MGM. No, I got the opportunity to do shit. You start out, you take any gig you can, like the roadside bar.
Right.
And then,
stripping.
And exactly, stripping, whatever it takes. And didn't get any singles that night. But you take whatever you can get. And the rule when you start is just to be in a good mood, be happy, be on time. Because comics, incredibly to me, were, when I started, like, younger comics would be difficult. Or I'm not doing that, or I don't want to go there, or I'm not doing, I don't MC, I'm only a middle actor. They have all these rules, and I kept saying, you're lucky to be here in my mind. Just be nice and say yes to whatever you can get. So you do every gig, and then eventually you break into clubs. And start doing, real nice weekends and stuff for clubs and colleges and whatnot. And then the ships came along, I would say about 5 years ago. I had a manager I was working with who had a relationship with the ships, and he said, "Do you want to try it?" And I said, "Oh, absolutely." I never say no to anything. Right. Certainly once you try it. And normally, we go, we're in and out of airports, in and out of hotels. By the first morning, you've got early radio in some local market. You're up at 5 a.m. on the radio. Then you go back to your hotel and you sleep. And then you wake up at 2 in the afternoon and you're tired and confused and you got a show that night. I mean, it's a kind of a tumultuous on land. Well, the ship I got on, and I said, it was a Saturday, and I said, okay, great, what do you need me? They're like, you have a show Thursday. And I was like, well, I could do this. This sounds... Well, I said, what should I do between now and then? Go to the buffet. And I was like, well, this sounds like the job for me. So the lifestyle was much more conducive. And also you're always alone as a comedian on the road. And all of a sudden there was people. There was, people to eat dinner with, nice people to meet during the week. Hopefully you did well and people wanted to say hi to you and talk to you because it's a long week when they don't like you.
I've had a couple of comedians that just spent the rest of the week in their cabin ordering room service after their shows. So
right?
You've done well. You've done well.
Well, that is definitely a relief. Yeah. But and so all of a sudden, after 15 years of traveling, you say, gosh, I was getting tired of just in and out all that time, and this week alone, I've written new jokes, I'm working on a script, it's a more sort of sane lifestyle, and as I said, I've gotten to meet a lot of these wonderful people, which has been just a lot of fun for me. It's also, the interesting thing about the ships is normally you don't live with the people you perform for. You go to a club somewhere, and then you leave, and you usually never see those people again. For me, what's really interesting is what they play back, the jokes that they liked. Yeah. Because sometimes, especially there's a joke I really like and it doesn't seem to be doing well and I'm about to give it up. And then that week on the ship, 3 different people will say, I love that joke that you did. And I say, oh, and it will give me the confidence to say, I'm going to keep doing it. So it's interesting to get kind of continual feedback that way. Yeah.
You're kind of held responsible for your show.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. And in good ways, though. I mean, it's a fun thing. So yeah. And now I'm going to get off in Europe, and that's not so bad either. That beats Erie, Pennsylvania. No disrespect to anyone from Erie.
I mean, you're probably not going to get asked to sign any cereal boxes over here, but...
no, that's true.
There's always a goal. There's always a goal.
Something to look for, right?
So, on ships, things can get a little crazy.
Sure.
Yeah. Have you had any crazy ship experiences? We have a few characters on board, in general.
I feel like you know something, and you're just fishing for me to...
Oh, I do.
Who have you talked to?
No one. Anything you'd like to share with us, Michael?
Nope. like to keep the ball in the air for you, but not this time.
All right, moving on. So where else can they find you? Have you done some, what are some of your larger projects that people could research and find you?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest things, like I said, are the Lettermans. They're all on YouTube. And these days, obviously, you just Google someone's name, Michael Somerville, everything you've done comes up. Right. Web series and albums and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and that's the nice thing about the internet, actually, is you can just, I like that guy, what was his name? And even if you misspell it, chances are good. I'm going to come up as there's a Mike Somerville. He was a guitarist in the 80s, which for some band, which is, by the way, the reason my name is Michael and not Mike. My name is Michael, but my whole life I was Mike Somerville. And then I got to join SAG, the Screen Actors Guild Union for performers, and there was already a Mike Somerville, this guy from the 70s, this guitar player. And so they said, well, you can't be Mike Somerville. And I said, well, that's who I am, Mike Somerville. What do you mean I can't be that? That's who I've been my whole life. And they said, well, you can't have two Mike Somervilles in the union. And I looked him up, and I was like, the guy doesn't even play anymore. He's like, he doesn't, no, sorry. So I became Michael, and when I was like 23, 24 years old, and all my friends thought I was trying to be like Mr. Hollywood, all of us, we have to call you Michael, I was like, no, I'm telling you, they made me change my name to Michael. Yeah. So that's how I became Michael Somerville, and they still give me a hard time to this day. But I've been called worse, so I'll take it.
So you joined SAG for the commercial work, or?
Yeah. After a while, if you do enough, you get 3 free vouchers, and then you have to join the Actors Union, and they start taking I still pay it to this day. It's $200 a year to be in the union, but it's great if you make money. They have contracts that protect you and all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't apply to comedians. So
that's actually how I ended up Thomas instead of Tom. The same story.
Is that really true?
There was already a Tom Weber. So
is that right?
They made me change it to Thomas.
You got to be Thomas.
Yeah.
Here we are, 2 guys faking it.
All right, my birth certificate actually says Thomas, so I'm not faking it that bad. So tell us a little bit about David Letterman's show. That's a fantastic. Very few people have the experience of showing up on that iconic show. So did you actually get to meet David Letterman? Yeah,
well, I did. I like to say our entire relationship was televised. You do not meet him before. You do not meet him after. But I'll take you from the beginning. Letterman, obviously, iconic show, and as a comedian, it is the Super Bowl. It's the show you want to be on. Carson, of course, in the day was, but he was retired. So Letterman was it. And they film in New York City where I live, and I was coming home from the road. I've been on the road about 3 weeks, and I was exhausted. And one night I was coming home late, I was tired, and I had a show in Long Island City, 2 subways away, raining, cold Friday night, about 10:30 show, and the last thing I wanted to do was go to that show. I was like, I'm exhausted, I've just got home, I just want to lie down. But I have a rule of never ever cancel the show. And certainly for a reason like that, I'm tired or whatever. So I said, no, you got to go. You're lucky to have work. There was a time where no one wanted you on their stage. So I take these trains. I get there freezing late night. There's 4 people in the audience at this club. I know. One of them was the brand new booker for Letterman.
You're kidding.
I didn't know at the time, thankfully, because I probably would have gotten in my head. I went up, and 4 people or 400, you perform. You do your job. And I got off stage, and I felt good about it. Sometimes a small audience can be a lot of fun. Sometimes, intimate little audience where you're in it together. Okay, here we go. I had a good set, and she came up to me after and said, my name is Kerry, and how would you like to be on Letterman? And I just started laughing. I was like, how much did you drink? Yeah, I'd love to. How would you like to be on Letterman, crazy lady? And she gives me her card, and it says Late Show with David Letterman. And she said, send me the set that you'd like to put on. And so I go, well, this is surreal. Even then, I didn't send her a set because I'm so used to this business, just people lying and telling you things and saying stuff. I kind of I believed it, but I didn't really, but as I put it in my thing, okay, I'll get to that, I suppose. And a week later, she emails me and says, you didn't send me a set. I was like, I thought you were kidding. Are we really doing this? And so sure enough, I put together a set. And that's all I did for the entire summer, 2012. The whole summer, I just worked on this 5 minutes, and I ran it and ran it and ran it. And even if I was doing a 45-minute show, I would open up the show with that 5 minutes and then just go, okay, now I'm on my own for the next 40. And everyone thought I was crazy. They would say, well, why would you do that? Why would you open with the 5? Why don't you open up, do your show, sandwich it somewhere in the middle? And I said, because that's not the way it's going to be on television. I'm going to come out and say that first word, so why not practice under every circumstances? I probably ran the set 120 times for real in a club or in a show, and then probably another 1,500 times in my apartment, just running it ad nauseum. Because I remember seeing Seinfeld saying that his first Tonight Show, that's what he did. He just ran it so much that no matter what happened, it was just in him. You know, it was just, he was bulletproof. And that's when I went, August 22nd, 2012. They pick you up in a nice limousine, and they bring you to the set. And you know, you're nervous, you're excited, you're sweating. I had napkins. I had to put napkins stuffed up into under my shirt, under my suit and under my shirt, because I'm naturally a sweater, and I was sweating for this one. And I could feel it coming through not only the shirt, but I was like, this is going to go right through the jacket, and I'm going to be on national television with just huge stains under my pits. So I'm jamming these things under, and all of a sudden they call me, like, it's time. Like, you think you're going to have all this notice and be standing by and this and that. Well, you're in your dressing room, and then when you're going on the commercial break, basically, and you're on next, they come up and get you. Like, okay, it's time. And you're like, okay, we've got another hour. And they're like, no, you're going on. And so I got these napkins stuffed in my pits. I'm like, I can't take them out now because I can't untuck and do it, you know, take the chance. So my first Letterman, I had napkins jammed into my armpits. And I remember just feeling them there, like kind of keeping my arms a little tight because I was like, I don't want them to fall. And anyway, I go through the set. And it feels good. I think I did a good job. I feel he comes out, and like I said, you don't get to meet him before. In fact, he's such a quirky dude. Some of you probably have heard this. He is so odd that within the building, whenever he changes rooms, when the show's not happening and everyone's in their room or their office or their whatever, whenever he decides he wants to go to another room down a hallway, they do a lockdown. They have walkie-talkies, and everyone has to freeze and stay in the room they're in because he doesn't want to pass anyone in the hallway while he's going to another room. He's a little odd. Don't you make fun of him. He's the greatest man ever.
I didn't make fun. I just said I didn't realize he was like Oprah.
Yeah, he's a weird dude. He's an odd, is Oprah like that too? Well, he's an odd dude. So he comes out, and if you watch on YouTube, if you watch my first set ever, I'm wearing a purple tie. He comes, he says, thanks, great job. They tell you to stand there. You finish your final joke. They go to commercial. They say, don't look back for Dave. If he wants to talk to you, he'll come out. And he always does. He comes out, at least goes to commercial. So I'm just sitting there at 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, and you hear the clapping, and finally he shows up on my left. Says, oh, great job, thanks so much, great. And he says, we'll be right back. And I get all excited. I look out, looking for my parents, the whole thing. I look back to say something to him. If you watch on TV, you can see it. They do a sweeping crane shot, and you just see me turn back to talk to him, and all you see is his feet leaving the stage. He's already gone off the curtain. Wow. So by the third time I was on the show, I knew I had half a second to say something to try to get in his ear, because you don't get a chance to talk to him. So I started practicing, like, what could I possibly say to, like, somehow impress him or try to get him to want to give me a sitcom. So the third time he comes out, he just comes out and goes, hey, Michael, good job. I just go, work hard. That's all I said.
You said what?
Work hard. And he
work hard?
Work hard. I just wanted to tell him I was working hard, and that's how it came out. I just go, work hard. And he just goes, okay, we'll be right back. We'll be right back.
And then he ran.
And then he ran. He was gone.
But you got back a fourth time.
I got back. I was the first comedian that he put on his final season in 2015, yeah.
Good for you.
January, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, very cool. A lot of fun. I was on in the last, 2012 to 2015, in the last, 3 years, I was on 4 times, which was told was a big deal, yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and then he retired. And I'll give you a little insight to the business. I had a 5th set. I told them, am I talking too much? Or?
No, you're great.
Okay. Well, I had a 5th set prepared because they were using me so much. I was so excited. Every time the night that I would be on, I would go home and start working on my next set. I go, I don't want to, just keep working, keep writing. And so I went at a 5th set, and I sent it to them, and I said, look, I know it's crazy. I was on in January. He was going to retire in May. I said, I'm sure it's unrealistic, but in the off chance you have a cancellation, I live down the street. I'll be wearing my suit down in the Starbucks, just in case you need.
I'm downstairs in the coffee house.
Exactly. I'll be on call. Well...
Is that when the restraining order came?
That's when you see the record on my name. That was Mike Somerville, not Michael Somerville. Anyway, I don't get on. They're busy, obviously. Yeah. He retires. So right away, I send it. I had never sent a tape to any other of the shows because I was a Letterman guy and I was happy to be it. So I sent it to every other show then. The Tonight Show, Conan O'Brien, Jimmy Kimmel, every other late night show. Okay, well, this set's great, and didn't get on Letterman. And no joke, everybody not only rejected it, but some people wrote back, we prefer more something you would have done on Letterman. We put like stuff like that. And all you got was nothing but rejection, or even on some shows, which I won't name, a little bit of attitude. Like, you know, he's a Letterman guy, and they almost, you could tell they resented that that's the Super Bowl, and we don't think that, you know, fine, that's for you, but that's not our speed. So I've yet, since 2015, to get on another late night show.
Really? Letterman ruined your career?
He made it, and then he ruined it.
He made it, and then he took you down with him.
Exactly.
Forced retirement.
I retired with a little less money in the bank.
And a little less beard. Have you seen him lately?
Yes,
yeah.
I know, yeah. That was out of nowhere, huh?
Well, it took a while. It wasn't out of nowhere.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, that surprised me, that whole period. He's not happy being retired, though. He wants to...
Oh, he's doing a series, Netflix series, yeah? It's actually kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
Getting some decent guests on there.
He does not like... His biggest fear, they always say, was not being relevant. And I think he feels not relevant. So, I love him. Always. He put me on
From
TV.
a distance. From, what is it, 500 feet?
Exactly. Well, friends think, like, by the third time, everyone thought we were best friends. Like, did you go to his house for Thanksgiving? I was like, what are you talking about? No. Guy never talks to me. He reads the cue cards and then leaves.
All right. Well, do we have any questions? Does anybody have anything they want to grill Mike about?
I don't want to grill you. I just want to compliment you for being age appropriate.
Oh, thank you.
It's a compliment about being age appropriate.
Wait, thank you. Yes. Yeah.
No dirty words, no slimy stuff. And that's rare, and I appreciate it.
So, for those of you who can't hear, she's complimenting him on not using dirty words or slimy stuff.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much.
And it is important, because you don't need it, proof positive here, that you don't need it to be absolutely hysterical.
Well, I appreciate you noticing that. And you know, my family, I grew up in a funny family, and we were always laughing and always joking. My mom is probably the funniest person on the planet, and that was our humor. It was always just, we never cursed, it was never blue, it was just what I was, you know, raised with. So when I started doing comedy, it didn't make any sense to all of a sudden be dirty or somehow go gratuitous. You know, why would you do that? It was just, those are the things that made me laugh. And then, you know, comments like that, you encourage you. Go, yeah, well, I'm glad that makes me feel good, that people feel good. It always bothers me when I hear, you know, comics that are just, they don't read the audience, or they don't get the audience, or they're just, no, those are the things that make me laugh, and so, I'm going to keep doing it my way.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Yeah.
Where was the bar in Pennsylvania?
Where was the bar in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll have to look up. I think if you took a map out of Pennsylvania and you looked right dead in the center, whatever that was.
Sir, that sounds attractive to you, that bar that he described?
Oh,
okay.
I'm sure, I'm sure you get off 80, you go 20 miles down a road, and I don't know the name. That's a good question. I don't think I probably would block it out of my head. I don't want to know the name.
Is that the area of Pennsylvania where you're on billboards everywhere?
No.
Just look for his face.
That's more north. That's,
okay.
Yeah. No. What is it, Knoebels? Are you doing inside jokes now for the room? He's telling himself jokes over there. I don't remember where it was, and I don't want to ever go back.
Yeah, sir.
You're talking about the rental car and listening to other comedians on Sirius. Is that a help, or is it sometimes in your head and you think you need to do the same joke?
The question is, listening to other comedians on Sirius XM, is that a helpful thing to do, or does that get in your head and make you feel bad about how much funnier everybody else is?
No, it's like... It's like...
No, that's the question. I don't shoot the messenger.
There's listening to other comedy is, I mean, it's like anything. Is hearing what other people are doing is always, I think, a great thing to do. And it's the nice thing about technology, internet, Sirius XM, all that stuff. back in the 70s and 80s, even the guys like Ron White, Seinfeld, all those guys, you had to move to New York or LA to see good comedy because you didn't have access the way we do now on internet cable, Sirius XM. So those guys had to move to one of the major cities to see good comedy, basically. It's one of the beauties of today. You can be a comedian from anywhere and still see what's working, see what the guys who are succeeding are doing. So I think it's a great thing. As equally valuable as seeing what bad comedy is or hearing what bad comedy is, because you see bad habits or hacky things. And I'll never forget when I first started doing the road, I started working with these headliners who were like from the 80s, and they hadn't written a joke since 1982. And you're just doing that same act, and you could, some of the jokes were just dated. Like, you can't talk about Nixon; nobody knows what you're talking about. And and you'd watch these jokes, and then we'd get to the end of, and they would come off, and I always felt like I had to say something to them. You always, like, at the end of a weekend, at the end of a night, thank you, you're the headline.
Yeah.
You want to be a little bit, I'm doing it 5 years, they're doing it 30.
Yeah.
And I would always, and I finally came up with a line that I was like, I don't want to lie, but I don't want to, like, what do you do? And I would just say, I learned so much from watching you. That's what that was it.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So here's a question. If you could sit in a comedy club and watch any performer, living or dead, do a set other than Letterman,
Yes.
who would it be? Who would you like to see live?
Rodney Dangerfield.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Then you and I have to talk because I worked with Rodney Dangerfield.
I was going to say, I thought he was in your cabin or something. I was like,
No.
we got a surprise.
When I first moved to LA, I was a PA for his production
Are you
company,
kidding me?
and I have driven him around in my car. I have stories from the set. I'm in his movie.
Are you kidding
I
me?
am not joking. His Me, Wally Sparks. I am in that movie.
Are you kidding me?
And I have recently been to his grave.
This is starting to get weird.
I can tell. Do you know what is on Rodney Dangerfield's gravestone?
I do not.
It is in Westwood, California. He's with Marilyn Monroe. He's buried in the same cemetery as Marilyn Monroe and all these famous people. He's got a lovely plot. And if you look down on his tombstone, it says, "There goes the neighborhood."
I love it.
Even in death, he's making people laugh. So, yes. So we'll sit down and have a beer, and I'll tell you some Rodney Dangerfield stories.
I would love, I would love to hear that.
So, and it's a good choice.
He was my first album. No Respect was my first album. That and Cosby was the first comedy I ever heard. And you know what I love? I couldn't believe that someone could get up there and just be so funny so quickly. And it wasn't until I started doing comedy that I appreciated how good he was. I thought he was just doing, set up, punch, joke. The structure and the wording and the choice, how he does it it's just such an economy of words. And I didn't appreciate it until I started trying to write my own jokes. And I'm sure you've all seen comedians who have talked for an hour before there's a punchline. And you go, good Lord, I mean, this is, and Rodney said, it wasn't just knock-knock jokes. He had jokes about his family. It was all under the guise of his silly character, but they were good jokes in a joke every 7 seconds. And I remember thinking if your job is to make them laugh, then try to make them laugh as often as you can.
Yeah. And if you had to name someone you feel is overrated, living or dead,
Living or dead.
who is someone you don't necessarily need to see again on stage?
Well, that's, anyone, honestly, who does it, I think has my respect at a certain level. I don't love everyone's comedy. It's not my brand per se, but anyone who steps on a stage in front of a live audience and it's with no props, no, nothing, no instrument, just I'm going to get up here and make you laugh. I kind of has a level of respect, but we'll talk after.
Got it. Got it. How are we doing on time? We're good. Anybody else have any? Yeah.
Has anybody ever borrowed your material?
Ooh, good question.
Has anybody borrowed his material? Have you been at a show and heard one of your jokes or something like that?
Yeah, that's always it's a tough thing, the borrowing of material or the stealing, or simply they call it parallel thinking, because it's
It sounds like alternative facts.
But no, it's a real thing. I mean, I think Chris Rock said it best. If you put 20 comedians in a room and told them to write a joke about building the Mexican Wall, there's a good chance that a certain number of them would come up with the same joke or a similar joke. And so it's always a good question. The internet has certainly made us all much more aware of what everyone else is doing everywhere. Back in, again, the 70s and 80s, there are stories about writers from LA, like, who were writing for television shows that were on television, and there were guys who were making millions of dollars, and on the weekend they would go to comedy clubs on the road and wherever else, in Iowa or something, and literally just take material and bring it back and be able to use it in their shows, really just lift material. Obviously, you can't do that anymore. It's a big subject now, stealing, and thankfully, most comics, especially the good ones, are very like, the worst thing you could do is try to take or borrow someone's joke. But no, I've never really. Every once in a while, I'll get a tweet or an email or something, or a text message rather, from a friend on the road saying, I'm doing a show, in Peoria, and this guy just did a joke about showers. I think he stole it from you. I was like, well, showering's pretty universal. I mean, like, what is the joke? And he's like, yeah, you said he was in the shower. You have a joke where you're in the shower. I'm like, all right, I don't think that's exactly stealing, but it is an interesting thing. And my favorite, Chris Rock actually said it. He said that we're going to write jokes that other people will do something similar. His rule was always like, if I saw that person's joke and I felt like mine was still the best, I would keep doing it. Because even if you didn't steal someone's joke, you don't want to be talking about the same stuff as someone else. He's like, oh, he does a joke about that, I do a joke about that. But Chris Rock always said, if I feel like mine was the best, I always felt like I'll keep doing it and they should stop doing theirs.
Good question. There's somebody over here?
One over there behind the wall over there.
Oh, there we go.
Are you booked for any more All America?
Yes. My book for any more Holland America cruises, October 5th to the 19th of this year, I'm doing the Boston-Montreal, the little loop, Boston-Montreal. This is my first time ever on Holland America this
you're
week.
Kidding.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, this is my first time ever on Holland America, and they hired me as a trial run, and they gave me this date and then that date in the fall, And then if you like me, please let them know, and maybe they'll actually pay me next time they book me.
Now, careful here. You're going to start rumors. There's going to be a GoFundMe page. They're going to name me. That's not true. He's being paid well for being here. All right. Yes, over there.
I just want to say it's delightful that you have said nothing political.
Yes, no political jokes. Gets a round of applause.
Yes.
We're all getting a little vacation.
That's also the thing, just like being clean. It's another thing that's, you have audiences that are just, everyone's on all different sides. I mean, why would you ever lose half your audience by trying to, make fun of one side or the other? Never made any sense to me. There's guys who would do that. They're probably not cruise ship, friendly or whatever, but... my job is my goal is to make everybody in the room laugh. And for me, life and relationships and family and all those things are pretty universal topics, and there's a lot to draw from, especially in my family. So, why would you alienate half the audience,
Yeah.
I think we should have a joke submitting contest, and Michael can read out the funniest one on stage. I think that the delivery of the joke and is what makes it funny. The story is Michael can build it up. I think we should have joke submitting contest, and we read one on stage. And that day is someone I just never think.
I agree with you that the delivery has a lot to do with it. I will tell you that I tried this once at the request of a guest for my afternoon trivias. They all wanted to submit their own questions and have me read them and have guest trivia. I will tell you it was a complete and utter disaster.
I wasn't even there.
At the end of it, the only thing everybody agreed on was that my questions were better and we will never do that again. So
Yeah, but Michael wouldn't read it for proof.
that's true.
And Michael wouldn't read it if it wasn't funny.
I'll tell you what, you are more than welcome to submit a joke to Michael.
I think he just hired himself as my writer. I think that's what he's trying to do here. Well, why don't I write for him? And then, that's one of the funny things about working on the ship. I talked about the beauty of seeing everyone meeting people throughout the week. The downside is the men decide that they're funny and they want to tell me jokes. And so all week long I'll get chased around the buffet by guys who want to tell me jokes. And So I started, never the women. And if the women are welcome to. Women, because they're polite. I don't want to bother you if you don't mind. You want to hear a thing? It was a cute little story. Of course. Guys are like, I got one for you. Buckle up. And they're never funny. So I started doing a bit on stage. This is true that I would say after, at the end of the show, I'd love to meet you, take a picture. Gentlemen, don't feel compelled to tell me a joke. You wouldn't go up to a boxer after a fight. Hey, you want me to punch you? And so I do this whole little bit that's, intended to subtly be like, guys, tone it down. So instead of telling me a joke, guys would start coming up to me and telling me how I was going to tell you a joke, but then you did that whole bit. And that started taking 10 minutes longer than just listening to the damn joke. So I was like, this is a no-win situation.
Oh, I love that story. All right, anybody else with anything? Well, I think that is a wonderful place to end this. Fantastic. Michael, thank you so much
Thank you.
coming out and waking up early for us this morning.
Just set my alarm, I really did.
Set your alarm. And he'll be back on stage tomorrow night for us with Naomi. And welcome to Holland America. You're going to be a wonderful addition.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you guys all for coming out.
Yeah, thank you.